This is Yoshi from Gendai Games. I'm here to show you how to create a shoot 'em up type game from scratch. We're going to be using GameSalad Creator Beta, and I will walk you through a lot of processes you'll use in making many of your games. So first we're going to start with an empty project. I'm going to go ahead and click on empty, and we're gonna use our initial scene to display our game title and instructions and so forth. So we'll make a new scene, and wanted to show you real quick here that you can now reorder scenes in GameSalad, which is very nice. So we're going to go ahead and edit our main scene, and we're going to start populating it with background items, HUDs, and players. So let's get started. I like to suggest that even before you create any sort of snazzy graphics, you're going to want to know how your basic gameplay works and how big things are going to be on the screen. So let's go ahead and call this actor player. We'll call this something like background. And the iPhone size of the screen, which is the default that GameSalad starts at, is 480 by 320. So if we want something to fill the background, we're going to need to make it that size. So let's go ahead and make this graphic that size. So I'm editing the size attributes of it. I can also change the color by bringing up a color well here. And remember, this is just temporary, so I'm just going to throw this in here, and we'll accept it. And now you can see when I drag it in, it's exactly the size that I want it. Another feature that we've added to GameSalad, in addition to that reordering I showed you, is the ability to nudge. So right now, I'm nudging my actor with the arrow keys on the keyboard. I can also I can actually rotate it here by dragging on this widget, either up or down. I can undo now in the scene by doing Command Z, and I can also constrain scaling of actors by holding down the Shift key on the keyboard. Again, I can undo that change. So now, one thing I didn't do when I created that background was to say that it shouldn't be collidable, because actually we don't want anything to run into it, and we don't want it wasting cycles in the physics engine. So I'm going to turn off collidable and movable, and we'll just wanted to point out that everything starts out on collision group 1, and we're going to be tweaking this a little bit later. This is something to keep in mind for later, that collision groups affect what collides with what. So go back here, and I know that I want my player to be a little bit smaller than the background, obviously, but I don't want it to be a square. I want it to be about half as high as I want it wide, and just so you'll be able to see it for readability very quickly, I'm going to change the color on it here. And now I'm going to go ahead and just put some behaviors on it really quick. And I'm going to first create a rule to take the keyboard input. So I can bring up the virtual keyboard here, and we know that we want it to go up and down to begin with at the very least. So what I'm going to do now is drag in the change of velocity action, and you can see here, this is another new feature of GameSalad Beta. Under behaviors, we have persistent behaviors, and we also have actions. So you can see persistent behaviors happen at all times, actions happen just once. So when the keyboard gets pressed with the up key, we're going to have an action of changing the velocity, and we're going to want it to go up. And for now, we'll just leave the default speed. That's something we can tweak later, and we can even make this a variable that we can change once, and then it will affect all 4 movements, which will be nice. Now, I like to name all of my rules so I know exactly what they do. That way, when I collapse them, I don't have to uncollapse them to see what's going on in there. So I recommend never just having the default name of rule there. Now, the nice thing is, now another new feature of GameSalad Beta is I can hold down the Option key and I can copy this behavior. I know I want to move down, so I'm going to edit that. Sorry, folks. And now I know that I want it to, I can either drag this radial dial here, and oh, I got the number just right, or I can type it in. And now it's going to move down, and let's be sure to change that key to down. And let's go ahead and test it really quick. Now I recommend you save. This is stable software, but it is still beta, so I recommend you save often. I'm going to go ahead and call this shoot 'em up and save it, and then I'll be saving often. I recommend everybody save often no matter what computer application you're using. Now I'm going to go ahead and drag in a instance of the player actor prototype, and I'd like to point out that let's say you double click on this, you're going to get a very clear indication now with GameSalad Beta that you may not want to actually edit this instance, but may actually want to edit the prototype itself. Now there are reasons to do it either way. If you want everything to have exactly the same properties, you're probably going to want to edit the prototype. But let's say we wanted this particular player for some reason to be a different color. You could actually do it like this, and now you can see very clearly when I go back here that even though the actor prototype is red, the instance is yellow. At the same time, when I press play, it still has the behaviors that we put on it. So now I'm going to go ahead and revert this prototype, and you'll notice that when I was going up and down that it kept going. So I think what we want to do is actually put in an otherwise here. So what we can do is we can actually bring in a change attribute, and we can actually set the player's velocity back to 0. And like I showed you before, we can edit so we know exactly what's going on. And I can drag this here, and I probably want to change this to Y. And now I can actually group these together, showing you some of the handy things that have really speeded up workflow in GameSalad Beta. I'm going to go ahead and make a copy of this. So I will hold in the Option key, drag it here, and I'm going to collapse this so I can see what I'm doing. And I can put this in here. I need to expand it first. That's why it's giving me a little bit of trouble. So I'm going to drag it in there. And let's go ahead and test it. And I'm going to press preview this time. And at first I'm like, oh, something's wrong with my game. But actually that's not the case. It's because if you look here, whenever you press preview from not in the scene editor, it's actually going to the very beginning of the game, and the first scene in the game is initial scene. We actually want to be in main scene, so if I double click you can see there it is. And now you can see also that when I press the arrow keys but then let go, instead of continuing its velocity, it stops. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go back to the scene editor and start adding some graphics. I can go directly to the scene editor by clicking